Hello and welcome to the SWAN Pricing Show. My name is Filip Vucic. I'm a pricing mentor.
And I'm Filip Zolota, business mentor.
Today we want to talk about sources of information and structure when you do pricing. Because what is commonly seen is, well, you know, guesswork and copying other people's guesswork, which we talked about, right? So if you want to find out what should you charge, well, you find out for a couple of colleagues that you know that are around your skill level in your area, which is also important. Um, and then you go a little lower, right? Because you want to be competitive. Done, right? And I mean, you can do that for commoditized things because, yes, going a little lower makes you competitive if everything else is the same. Um, however, that's what we like to call the duck case, right? The commoditized service. However, in the SWAN case, in the expert service business, that doesn't make you competitive. So if you have an accountant that you trust and now somebody else comes and drops the price 20%, they're not going to be competitive. Nobody's going to say, oh yeah, I'm totally going to drop this guy that I trusted for the last 10 years because this guy obviously is desperate for money enough to drop the price 20%. That sounds like a great deal, right? No. So when it comes to structure and sources of information, it's a completely different show, whether we're talking about easy to compare duck commoditized services, duck type commoditized services, and swan type expert services, right? So my first first thing that I would like to ask you today is, since you're very much providing a swan type service, what types of information do you take into when making the price, when building a price for you or for a client? Doesn't really matter.
Sure. So, important thing which I always mention to the colleagues, friends, and partners when we are talking about the business, how to set up things, is the fact that you need to be aware of your overall business costs. That is a founding stone and key element from where you can make a proper expansion, definition, and conclusion of your pricing. Especially what is often happening, solopreneurs are perceiving themselves, okay, I'm the business owner, I'm also the person who delivers the service. So, for example, my service costs 2K and I'm fine with that. That is not good enough because you need to perceive yourself as a resource of your company, because not in every situation you will be able to provide that service. In the end, if your plan is to scale and grow the business, you need to have adequate amount of resources and being able to pay for the professionals, employees, so you can adequately and professionally deliver the service to your clients. That are the fundamentals experts and expertise businesses quite often forget about. Leaning also, as you mentioned, on regular going rates in specific locale and comparing like thumb making the sorry, sorry, ovo ćemo katati, jer sam se zbunio. Daj mi reci, di da nastavimo dalje. Di nam je dobar point, da ne prekidamo recording. Ili da
Um,
napravimo kompletno moj.
Napravi kompletno tvoj. Znači, ok, ja sam te pitao what sources of information you take in. Udahni i kreni ponovo.
Okay. So the primary and key point is what is often seen in expertise. Business people are seeing themselves, for example, in the solopreneur world. Okay, I'm the guy who's the owner of the company and also the person who is delivering the service to the client. The problem lies exactly within that paradigm. You need to perceive yourself as the asset and as the resource of your business and your company. So no matter you are one person who does it all, you are the asset which provides the professional service, but also at the same time you're the business owner. Also, when you are determining the price, you need to be aware of overall business operating costs. And in the end, have adequate amount of resources, meaning money, to be able to pay for your employees in the future, for contractors, so you have adequate namespace for profit margin, for paying the costs, covering operating costs, and everything else. That is the element which is often being left behind when we are talking about the expertise business, as we mentioned also in the pre-show, and you mentioned today also the problem with focusing and leaning on the going rates and comparisons with similar or lookalike experts who are providing similar or the same service on that specific locale and market. So in the end, as you mentioned, important parameter is that no matter as a businesses, we provide some line of services. Some of us have more experience in specific. Some of us come with additional and tangible value. So that is also more often than not a very important and often key element of specific success. And that is the extra value you provide and pour into your service when you are providing it to the client, especially if we are talking about a long-term commitment collaboration with larger scope of the activities.
Okay. So yes, we talked about the going rate not really being the greatest example of a source of information, right? Especially locally, when you offer a service that can be done no matter the locality. So, there's no barrier in a Bitcoin consultant living in Belgium and consulting to somebody in Alaska. Nobody cares, or Singapore to Berlin. It's just, yeah. So looking at the local prices of where you are when you provide the service, I mean, that made sense in 19th century. It doesn't really matter that much anymore. So looking at sources of information, which I'll mention locally, but where the client is, that might have much more merit, right? Because you have to know your costs, just to touch on there, and in your total task price, right? All of the price of your hours and the price of any additional costs, direct costs that you're going to have. That is local, for sure. But that is like 90% of what you need to know when offering a commoditized service. But for a SWAN case, that is maybe 10% of information that you need to have when you're billing a price, right? What else is there? Well, there's market averages. However, I wouldn't say the total going price or market value or whatever people call it. It's an average, but it's in statistical terms, it's a mode. It's not an average like median or anything. It's the most common one, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best. And like a mathematical average of taking all of the prices that you can get to, and you won't be able to know all of them, and just dividing them by the number of units in that category, you will get something like in that old joke that if you have one foot in the ice and one in lava, on average you're good, right?
Mhm.
No, you're suffering on both parts. So market averages, in my experience, have two, let's say, two streams. The low market average, which is usually the for people who want to be competitive with their price. So if somebody asks, that isn't that everybody? No, it isn't. We talked about why. But if you want the price to be a major competitive edge, then you need to know the low market average. There's also a high market average, which is the average of all of the important or urgent projects that are actually being made. So being made on the criteria of quality, not price, primarily, because it doesn't really matter that much if it costs $3,000 or $4,000. It matters that you get a really good impact on this,
Mhm.
right? Um, you can scale that up. Sometimes it doesn't matter if it costs 40 or 50, $1,000. But it really needs to land, and it needs to land now, and it needs to begin tomorrow. So there's a high market average and a low market average, and then there's the budget averages, which almost by definition are going to be somewhere starting from a low market average and then going up maybe halfway to the high market average or something like that. Because if somebody has a lower budget than that, they will either have to go with somebody who is not really offering that, and they will be burned, and then they will be back again with a more realistic budget, or they are within the low market average at least.
Mhm.
So the market averages encapsulate basically the budget averages. But once you know who your target audience is, you will be able to build like a budget averages. You don't need a survey of 50 clients. 5 is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you are long enough in your business to know your expertise, except if you worked for somebody until yesterday, you will have like a good sense of at least 5 clients, what their budgets actually were, right? One thing is what they told you at the beginning that the budget is, and another thing is what they actually paid. So yeah. Um, so once you have these, you can say 3, you can say 5 sources of information. So by 3, I mean market average, budget average, and total task price. And by 5, I mean total task price and then 2 market averages, low and high, and 2 budget averages, low and high. Now you have some ranges that overlap, and now you can say, oh, okay. So if I want to have, and this is where we come to structure, and that's something that I wanted to talk to you about. So I'll answer that question myself as well. But what does having control of pricing structure mean for you and your business?
Mhm. Yeah, it's very easy. It means to have sustainability, predictability, business continuity overall, and in the end, when you blend it all, to be able and to be sure you can provide top-notch service, being responsible, so you can actually do what is required. I have one interesting, and that is maybe the sixth variant and option where you have specific gap, internationalization. Let's say, for
Mm.
example, you are a company based in the United States and you want to go international, expand the Europe market, in Australia, you name it. So how much that would cost? And you communicate with a bunch of companies, and you even ask them for any kind of proposal. What is the price of us expanding on these, and these locations? It is hard to make any kind of comparison. You can define the budget, which will definitely vary, sometimes massively, from the entrance point, but also that is a specific service gap, meaning you have company which is actually able to help you and support you on international scale and practically be your business wingman, so you can open up subsidiary, maybe some franchising model, hybrid franchising model, etc., etc. So to get back on the topic and question, yeah, it gives you ability to be precise, deliver the service you promised, and to have a stable and sustainable business in the future. And the most important is to be able to pay the best possible resources available on the market, especially if you have some more extensive venture or project which requires numerous fields of expertise, because that cannot be one person. What we can see very often, due to the lack of budget or small budgets, companies are entering compromises, and then they're paying multiple times the same amount, while if they took or waited a little bit more longer and took true professionals to guide them, help them, and support them, it would be even cheaper. And that is when we also often mention that low ticket price or cheap price most often drives you towards the very expensive costs in overall grand scheme of things when you are doing any kind of more complex work.
Yes. For me, having a control over the structure means I can aim a price. So pricing is not finding a number. It's finding a range of numbers depending on what you want to do. So maybe you want to build a friendly price. That's fine. That doesn't mean you cut yourself to the bone. That means that you basically hug the low market average because you want it to be friendly. You still don't want it to be exploitative.
Yeah.
So it has to be friendly to you as well, right? Or you want to have a not extremely friendly, but a highly competitive one because you really need the work. Or you want to present a price that will not hobble you, that will not disable you from negotiating, because most clients will expect you to negotiate. This is another SWAN difference. For many kinds of services, because they're based on hours and hours are objective, there's no negotiation. There's just, this much per hour. If you spend this many hours, that's that's the price. If you spend over 100, it'll give you a 10% discount on overall whatever. It's like with potatoes here, because it shouldn't be based on hours, because hours that don't mean much. Like we said, in, I don't know, waiting tables or whatnot, 3 hours is always better than 1 hour, and 9 hours is better about 3 times than 3 hours. So if the professional is doing that, right, it's always worth more to have more hours of waiting tables as a commoditized service. But in expert services, it does 3 hours of development, computer program development, is it always better than one? No. Depends on all sorts of things. So it can be more, it can be less, it can be the same, it can be anything, and there's nothing that you can do to know in general is it better or not. So there's much more leeway for the client to try to negotiate with you, right? So expecting negotiation, you can deliberately offer a price where you can go with the flow, not try to make a ultimatum to a client by saying no, that's my first and last price and I can't do anything about it, otherwise I'm cutting my own throat. Which for some people is like the best situation for most professionals that have any kind of experience with negotiating, that's very strange
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they would never offer anything with no, escape hatches. Um, so they see it as a projection of power, of disrespect, as a diss that you are trying to give them the ultimatum price right away, like you're trying to get rid of them or something, right? Okay, so having control over pricing structure means I can deliberately aim it. So when I present my price, I know where the averages are, where my cost is, where my price is compared to these averages, and then I can deliberately even go with the, no, I don't want to do this price, right? So don't make me. If you make me, I'll make you pay through the nose. But you have to know that it is, because sometimes, and I've seen this, people say, oh, I don't want to do this. I'll take my regular price and increase it by 30%. Dun dun dun. And then the client says yes, and then they say crap, you know. Um, and when I say, so, it's not a no thank you price unless it's like 4 times your usual average, or 10, and they go white from shock, you know. I mean, if you're putting a price like that, you really don't want to do this. So if they still make you do it, at least well, fine. Then I don't have to hunt for 3 additional clients, which is also something that I don't like doing. So fine, I'll take this, I won't appear in my family home for 2 weeks, but then I'll take my family for a very nice weekend somewhere.
Yeah.
Fine, I can live with that. Anyway, um, so I think the main subject for today was finding out. So what you find out in order to build a price, and then how do you use that as structure, as an underlying, let's say, support, to actually be able to wield your price, not just plop it onto the table and hope it survives, but to
Mm-hmm.
actually wield it as a tool, as it should be, right?
Yeah, and in the end, what I wanted to mention, and you helped me remind that specific
Uh-huh.
moment and thing, uh, you want to have the structure because that way you can communicate properly the value. Other way around, you are jumping into the ad hoc numerous situations and making up the numbers. So you don't know, and also there is big problem there and big risk is you becoming overly agile depending on the case. If somebody is stronger in negotiation, the person will be lowering the price and you'll be saying yes. You'll be saying yes to every possible situation. The point is in business overall, when we are talking about the deal closing and engaging, balancing the risk. So if, for example, the client uh, asks, not asks, okay, client says, for example, oh, we don't have the budget. Okay, you'll be reducing the scope and similar thing. But also in the same time, if you're able to optimize the budget size for your service, the way your impact on the business gives a much more tangible and quantifiable value. So you can say, for example, instead of them paying you 15K per month, okay, if I have the control, if you'll be listening, your research will be doing this, and that, and we agree on it, I can do for 10, plus you'll be paying me additionally percentage from revenue, percentage from gross profit margin, you name it. And it's risk balance. And then you are becoming the trusted advisor, you're positioning yourself uh, as as their partner, and it is easier. Also, that type of approach, it is good to have within your pricing structure and the list, because it's the practically it's the one of the key elements of your operating procedure. So you any possible situation which happens and you are being involved, you know how to address, how to communicate, how to navigate towards desired state. And that is important to have in mind in the process.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say is the biggest mistake aside from just surrendering to the average to the market rate that people in SWAN businesses usually do?
Mm-hmm.
Pricing wise.
Pricing wise. Okay. Few things we already mentioned, but what is the kind of the biggest one? Yeah, I would even emphasize what I mentioned now previously, not having the structure, because that puts you in the bad spot by default. You are not being ready. Athletes train for a reason, no matter the talent. The same thing is in negotiation, in pricing, in doing some job. So that is the fundamental, the baseline, and the foundation for your business. If you're
Is
not
the
able
lack
to
of
negotiate
preparation.
adequately, you're in problem.
Yeah, is a lack of preparation. So it's one thing if you're a runner that trains for a run, and one thing is that you're a runner, but you're completely surprised. Oh, I have a race today. Oh, it starts in 10 minutes. Crap. Let me get out of this apron first.
I should prepare, maybe.
So yeah, you're simply not going to have the same amount of success. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Philip. Where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn and also on my business mentorship page, philipzolota.com.
Mine is fearless-pricing.com and all the various social media. This was great. See you next week.
See you. Take care.